what exactly is Tantra? If you were to ask the average Neo-Tantra practitioner that question, they would probably tell you that it has something to do with sacred sexuality or some New Age practice. And if you ask the average self-styled esoteric master who's read Gnan and Evola, they would tell you that it is a deeply occulted practice that is totally inaccessible to anyone who hasn't traveled to the deepest, darkest India or Tibet. But I'm here to tell you that Tantra is neither of those two things. Tantra is a system that we utilize in order to explore consciousness. It's an ancient system, more ancient than you may think, because Tantra is perennial. And the method of Tantra existed long before the word Tantra. This word, Tantra, which is a Sanskrit word, is a word that we apply for convenience, because the Indian tradition of Tantra and the Tibetan tradition of Tantra is a beautiful living tradition that we may refer to for expediency, for clarity. But of course, there are pitfalls with focusing on one or two specific cultural manifestations of Tantra, because as I said, Tantra is a system. It is like science. Now, of course, you have Russian science and you have Chinese science, but you would never say that in order to practice science, you must go to Russia or you must go to China or the United States and learn from a specific lineage of scientists. It's a method. So anyone who practices science is a scientist. If you practice Tantra at any level, you are a tantric. Now, that doesn't mean that if you practice Tantra, you are a master of Tantra. Those neo-tantrics who practice sacred sexuality, they are tantrics, but they are novices, just touching on the very tip of the iceberg of what Tantra has to offer. Now, this does not mean that their practices are invalid, but they offer such a small sampling of what Tantra really is about. Tantra is a means of exploring consciousness through the material. All tantric practices begin with the recognition that the physical body, the blood, the Muladhara, is the foundation of consciousness in the present Yuga. And so we begin our exploration of consciousness through analysis of the material. Now, what makes Tantra different from science is that we as tantrics are not confined to the natural world. We recognize the subtle world as well, or what others may refer to as the supernatural world, because Tantra is a holistic system for exploring the cosmos. Now, like I said, you don't have to possess an occulted lineage in order to practice Tantra. And in fact, most schools of occulted Tantra are not presenting an accessible, genuine expression of Tantra, because most of these schools are steeped in dogma and taboo. Now, one of the hallmarks of Tantra is that it is about free exploration in a holistic sense, freer than science. Because as I said, science is confined to the natural world, while the tantrics focus on both the natural and the subtle worlds. So, if you're going to freely explore the body and freely explore that which is outside of the body, you must abandon all dogma and taboo. That means abandoning the dogma and taboo of lineage. Now, I'm not saying that lineage has no value or that gurus have no value. In fact, gurus offer great value to anyone who wants to practice Tantra. Just like anyone who wants to practice science may go to an esteemed scientist at a university in order to learn the fundamentals and grow in their understanding of the method. But you don't need to have a guru to do this. It's not necessary. It's very helpful, but it's not necessary. You don't have to have a pedigree to practice Tantra, just like you don't have to have a degree from a 4-year university to practice science. It's a method that is accessible to everyone. And anyone who tells you that it is not accessible to everyone is misrepresenting the tantric tradition. Now, something very important to keep in mind is that Tantra is a system of exploration and it evolves over time. It is not confined to the Tantras themselves. That is, it is not confined to the texts of ancient India or Tibet. Just like science is not confined to the texts of any period where science was practiced. It evolves. So, recognizing that Tantra is an evolutionary system, we may also recognize that Tantra relies on experimentation. And so, if you are going to practice Tantra or yoga, you must be willing to experiment. Now, this is a dangerous mode of experimentation because what we are dealing with is the very foundation of consciousness. That is the very foundation of the way that we experience the cosmos. And in practicing Tantra, you are manipulating and altering consciousness, which is a very challenging and dangerous practice, which is why gurus are important. But, like I said, you can experience Tantra without a guru. You just have to know that in your experimentation with consciousness, there may be mistakes. And that goes for gurus too. There is no such thing as a perfect guru. There is a guru who is good for you. There is a guru who is bad for you. How do you determine this? Well, you must find a guru who is in alignment with your dharma. And your dharma, as a practitioner of Tantra, is to be able to comfortably and with some degree of safety explore the paths of Tantra and yoga. And there are many paths within these schools. So, if you find a guru, if you are entering into Tantra, recognize that this is a dangerous path of experimentation, but it is a worthwhile path. And you have to be willing to make mistakes. I have been practicing Tantra for over 20 years. And though I am very advanced in my practice, and I have effectively taught many others how to walk the path of Tantra Yoga, I myself have made many mistakes. And I'm willing to admit this. Any true guru of Tantra will admit to you that they are imperfect. They themselves are subject to the laws of the cosmos which include both order and chaos. You cannot control every variable when you practice Tantra, just like you cannot control every single variable when you practice science. You have to be brave in your exploration. You have to be willing to make mistakes, and you have to be willing to admit that you have made mistakes. But at the same time, when you have discovered something that is worth recognizing as a principle of the cosmos, you must uphold it. You must take hold of that thing and use it to empower yourself in your advancement of the understanding of consciousness and the world around you.